a likely possibility. You know, going into it, it felt like Rush Warrior had that small edge on Spell Mage. And as you started progressing higher in ranks, you saw that Spell Mage, the win percentage started going the opposite direction. But now, when you get a little bit extra tools and it feels like Mage got nothing from the mid-set expansion to help this specific archetype, at least in the current iteration of the decks that we see, I'm feeling like Nalguidan has some stuff gonna make the Mage hurt. Now that being said, what does Luna go for? She does have the 1-2-3, but it's not particularly super powerful unless you combine it with stuff. Ends up throwing away Cram Session, keeps Font of Power and the Arcane Intellect. Might need to use a lot of this Font of Power minions in order to stabilize. Find some good potential stuff here. All of these cards, well, Mordresh not that great, but I think Firebrand and Jandis ends up being some of the higher tier minions that you can get off this card.
Absolutely. And I don't really even think they're too slow for this matchup. I think that it could at least, okay, that is quite good.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, because there is the one window that Rush Warrior does leave up at times, which is that Rush Warrior takes a little bit of time to get online. It is a very it's a true mid-range deck in a sense. Wow. Top deck, Cantor's Flow. Yeah, it's a true mid-range deck in the sense that it has the capability of going really fast, but also can just play slow. Also, if it has a slow start, can kind of play for big tempo in the mid game, pushing out a ton of cards and stats out of nowhere. And we might have to see a little bit of that. Nalguidan does not exactly have the greatest setup here because he's just had the Prison Gnarg hatch from its dormancy. Durable Fiery War Axe, so Sword Eater doesn't exactly do anything, and plus would rather save opportunities to capitalize on the coin for later. And this is the point where Luna shows the second Cantor's Flow.
And takes out a high priority minion, yeah. One thing that Nalguidan is going for him is that he's got a lot of recurring damage with the Imprisoned Gnarg weapon, plus Sword Eater to follow that up. But problem is, I guess, surviving from this point, because double encounter flow is incredibly scary. And from Nalguidan's perspective, if Luna has card draw to follow it up, he might be in some trouble.
Wow.
It's a reasonably sized Apexis Blast minion. Nice little 5.
It's enough to make the Stonemaul Anchorman feel pretty bad, is my takeaway from it. By having 5 attack, does not make the Anchorman very clean. But Nalguidan did pick up the Crab Rider. Another Anchorman opportunity. Conditioning will buff all of that. Then you can play Crab Rider as a 5/7. Really strong turn from Nalguidan in terms of setting up. So these Anchormans are going to be very powerful to deal with. So here comes the pressure that we were talking about.
Yeah, and essentially, like, as weird as it sounds, one more weapon from Nalguidan, and that's enough damage for Alexstrasza to, like, end the game. Obviously, you know, Ring Toss is going to be able to interrupt that plan. Iceberger, I think, is an automatic choice with how this game has gone on. And, yep, Oasis Ally, 2 of the best ones. Counterspell can be good in some cases against Rush Warrior because they don't play many spells, and the spells that they do play are high impact. But Nalguidan still has coin, so I like these two secrets.
Nalguidan sees no Serenity.
Yeah, I think he could be. I don't think he wants to play this coin because he wants to chest for counterspell because he wants the ability to coin Alexstrasza. He could test for Oasis Ally first and seize it, and then that'll pretty much force him to test for Ice Barrier because his face is most likely going to be frozen the next turn anyway. Okay. freely play stage dive. This little series of deductions for Nalguidan.
Stave dive draws the bumper car. So some combo potential from Nalguidan with the ETC. Luna does not have that powerful of a spell sequence for her to go for. So Jandice was on her mind immediately. She could pair it with the devolving missiles to try and get the watermelon to stay alive. Oh my goodness, Alar. Optimistic Ogre is just well statted. Evolving missiles here.
Alar is actually just insane to be illusioned because it's so hard to get through both of them. You could kill it and then keep it around, like keep the egg around, because it does have summoning sickness the next turn when it respawns. But you can only really do that if you're like setting up for a win over the next 2 turns. Nalguidan's quite far away from that. There is potential with ETC to kind of sneak out a victory, but it's going to take multiple turns of setup. And this board is going to be quite hard for Nalguidan to really stick much of anything, and it's also going to be dealing that recurring damage that Mage loves so much. If they can get minion damage in at any point in the game, it's very easy to piece together those last bits of burn.
Yeah, I mean, there's, what, 18 power represented on board? It was 3 the turn before, and then all of a sudden, 15 damage came out of Jandice. It's like a 3-turn lethal out of nowhere. This is very frustrating, I think, if you're in Nalguidan's position. Anchorman will clear off part of the board. Optimistic Ogre still has a chance to miss. Finds the Samuro. Not good enough here. Luna draws. Finds more card draw sources. Egwin with the cram session. Whoo! Shooting Star also deals a good amount of damage.
How about a 3rd free Incanter's Flow?
Not that it's even entirely necessary, but yes, I'm very open to it.
I mean, it's free. It doesn't matter if it's necessary. Okay. Oh! That is incredible for Nalguidan.
Yeah, that was huge.
I mean, the rest of the turn, not so big, but just being able to absorb that damage is quite massive.
How much can we set up here for Alexstrasza? Alexstrasza is 8 damage. Luna's at 22. So you need to deal 14 to her this turn through the form of ETC and rushers. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 rushers is what I count.
What now?
6 with the coin. Oh, never mind. Doesn't have the last one. Yeah, right, 5 rushers.
Yeah.
I mean, it just clears off the board, though, right?
True. I mean, at least you do that.
Yep.
Not to mention that there's this possibility that Luna is whiffed, and you might just be able to play Alexstrasza the next turn anyways and then finish with a weapon the moment you draw it. That being said, Luna has 2 fireballs in the Master Cocoon. Egwin survives. Super dead, because Egwin also can attack, right?
Yep, it's just lethal with the fireballs.
That's nuts. 9 damage. Egwin, even the mask. Sorry, 8 damage rather. And Luna cruises to a game 1 victory. Spell Mage getting the job done. And I don't think it was anything about the decks. Again, this feels like one of these things where we can talk about the deck and hype it up a little bit and be like, oh, this is the deck that TJ performed really well on. And then it just looks kind of, weak against like the Mage. But make no mistake, Mage beats a lot of decks with that kind of draw. It doesn't really lose much. And it was the same thing of when Nalguidan did the same exact thing, where if you get the Incantus Flow early, you get all the stuff rolling. No deck of Lunacy, no problem. 3 Incantus Flow is more than enough.
It certainly is. Third one, like you said, pretty inconsequential. It came late enough into the game where Luna didn't even get to draw pretty much a single card with that discount. But just double Incantus Flow usually is enough to win against a lot of decks. Nalguidan ended up getting reasonably close, but in the end, maybe not even really, because Luna had like 10 extra damage in hand worth of burn to kill. So, Spell Mage, done and dusted, out of the way. Not really the deck I was super concerned about for Luna taking a win with anyway in this matchup, right? Spell Mage, like at worst, goes 1-1 in many Conquest series. For the players that are bringing it, right? We're looking at a situation where all the players in the upper bracket and the 2 players that are already qualified for our top 4 all have Mage, Spell Mage in their deck. So I don't think that's a coincidence either. Now Luna will move to the Death Rattle Demon Hunter. Dan, you love this deck. I don't love it or hate it. I'm just not completely sold on it right now. But unlike Secret Rogue, Death Rattle Demon Hunter, I can see potential, and I see the workings of it.
Yeah, to say that I love this deck might be a little bit strong.
You tweeted that you love it.
Did I?
I'm pretty sure you did. Maybe you didn't tweet that you loved it, just that it was good.
I just wrote that. Okay, I'll read the tweet. Let me pull it up. At Play Hearthstone, I often reminisce of old Twitter, so I'm just going to start posting gaming content again. Testing #HSGM playoff deck started strong at 10-1 with Luna Love's Death Rattle Demon Hunter featuring Mutinous, Narlex, and Fell Rattler. Shaman isn't much of a struggle at the moment. Oops, that was the wrong screenshot, but whatever. I just wanted to play 10 games, but I felt like going 10-1 was better. Deck code, capital A, capital A, capital E, capital
Translation.
C, capital A, EA, 5, capital A, WJRVG, OB2, capital A, capital O, / 7, capital Q, capital O, M, 7W, capital P, capital I, 7W, capital P, and 8, capital A, capital O, OIG, capital T, capital U, NW, Q, L, 2CYDH, 9, capital Q, capital DIT, capital Q, capital D, YD, 0, capital D, 194, capital D, 8 plus, capital M, capital D, U plus 0, DV, O0, D, / E0, capital DR plus 8, capital DG, capital I, capital U, capital E, capital A, equals. That's what I tweeted.
Translation. Luna's Death Rattle Hunter is insane. Best deck I've ever played. Went 10-1. I love it. Here's the deck code. That's the translation.
Yes. Yeah, you're excellent paraphrasing skills.
I've cast with you long enough. I know how to paraphrase every tweet that you make. And you basically said, I love it.
Well, language is a funny thing. It's very fluid for sure. As we go into the game, mulligans already have passed. Free cards have been played already. And Luna's Death Rattle chains have been coming along. I will say there's 2 things that I like about this version over the ones that we've seen from Dreadeye and No Hands. One, I think it's a lot more consistent for a N'Zoth game plan because you're curating your pool a lot more aggressively as opposed to having the Sigil of Summoning that has these like 2/2 taunts that sometimes summons the Inquisitor back with N'Zoth. And then the other side of it is that I think things like Sneaky Delinquent is actually surprisingly very effective because once Demon Hunter starts getting their opponents to a certain health total, it has the same impact as Hunter, where they're at like 15 health, and all of a sudden you feel like you could die at any moment because of back-to-back Inquisitors. That kind of threat is a huge deal that warps people's ability to conserve their removal or feel like they can... or they feel like they have to use it very fast.
Yeah, that's fair. I do think that it makes more sense than just a bunch of death rattles that just keep chaining with each other, that just keep spawning more minions, having like that secondary effect of, oh, this has stealth. So when it gets summoned, even if you're behind on board, it's still going to be able to do something, right? It's still going to be able to attack the next turn. Maybe you can bail yourself out or push that little bit of extra face damage. Okay. Still a scary situation to be in. A lot of big minions in Nalguidan's hand that are continuing to get larger.
Yeah, the conditioning with the Runthok back to back.
Yeah.
Bell Rattler does answer
Powerful
this.
plays. Yeah.
Oh, another thing that I like to say is that I think Felsteel Executioner is actually quite strong. I really underestimated this card, but it's 3 mana deal 12. And you're talking about the pressure game plan that you're able to do. You play the Executioner, deal 12, and then the Inquisitor does 8. That's 2/3 of their life in 3 turns if you're able to set it up. So I think the reason why I felt more comfortable is that I felt like there was more reasonable, aggressive lines I could take, as opposed to just like, well, this Death Rattle will chain to another Death Rattle, which summons another Death Rattle and allows me to draw another Death Rattle, which is cool, but a lot of fancy Magician's redirection that ultimately is just smoke and mirrors, it feels like to me.
I will agree with that. I like this one better than the other ones.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, one card that I didn't like in the deck for Nalguidan's deck was Mankrik. It's a 3/4 on curve, but I felt like I could like count on one hand how many times Holger was actually summoned from my deck. Like you have no card draw, you have tutor effects with rush minions, but that's it. Doesn't get pulled by Watley. There's no draw spell, anything in Warrior. You draw it later in the game. It doesn't fit into any turns that you want to make. It's just a 3/4 that has no immediate impact on the board. It's my only criticism about the deck. Obviously, Mankrik is just, okay, I need a 30th card. I don't know what to put in the deck. Mankrik's like that kind of catch-all.
Yeah, it's a solid minion that has a lot of ability to put pressure into the opponent, and it just does a good job at what it's trying to do.
Yeah.
They cannot
Yeah.
stop my work.
Ooh, N'Zoth. Still many turns away, though. But ooh, there it is.
There it is indeed. Luna's stuck with a little bit of an awkward hand, actually. Funny enough, the 2 Felsteel Executioners that got corrupted, I think Luna would have actually preferred to have one non-corrupted, or just simply to get it out of the hand so that Nalguidan could be played the following turn. So if Luna chooses to play the Fishy Flyer or the Renowned Performer, and Skull still is going to be out of position moving forward, which is going to be problematic. However, I think that Luna foresees that if she plays Felsteel Executioner and develops no other minions, that she might be in trouble.
Yeah, but at the same time, kind of got to start getting these weapon swings out and outcast that Skull. Like, that's the important part, because Skull, the outcasted Skull can hit a lot of things that all can just be dumped next turn. From Luna's perspective, right? There's different Beastmasters, Fell Rattler, Fishy Flyer, Renowned Performers, all of these things that some with immediate impact on the board, some not, but that can all just be dumped on the same turn and just try and buy time until she can get to the N'Zoth turn and have a big swing. But Nalguidan ain't stopping. A lot of follow-up. Oh!
Whoa! Death Speaker Blackthorn, that's the best draw possible. Off the top.
Look, Fishy Flyer, Fell Rattler? Okay, Fell Rattler. Okay.
I mean, Fell Rattler's good
That's
enough.
That was insane!
It's huge. And also pulling the Beastmaster to potentially pull either the Fishy Flyer or the Performer. I mean, this is really big. That being said, Nalguidan does have the damage turning.
But
I believe was
backing up real quick.
I believe ETC might have been it.
6, 9. Not quite. Oh no, you're right. It would have been it. 5 rushers. Yeah, ETC plus 5 rushers. Well, it depends how you look at it, right? If the bumper card was already in hand, or if ETC needed to be that card.
Does the Crab Rider not count anymore?
Oh no, the Crab Rider does count. You're right. So if ETC was that card off the top, no, you're right.
It doesn't really matter. I think at this point, Nalguidan's game plan is pretty straightforward. Ooh, Alar gets hit.
Okay,
That's kind of a big deal.
Means it can't attack this turn. It's 3 damage to stick.
Fishy Fire comes out. Fishy Fire goes in. Troublemaker obviously has to die. I think Luna's debating about if there's a Skull necessity to play Skull, or she could just play the Renowned Performers, get the taunts in the way, and hope that there's no Alex Strauss in the hand.
She knows that there's 4 Dark Moon Riders in hand. That's the problem with the Renowned Performer, right? It's still better than nothing. At any point, the Renowned Performer is going to struggle to block a ton of damage from connecting.
To the chase.
It's true, but with the Dark Moon Riders being forced to be used is that you can't save it for some combo potential as much. And you don't get to, save it for like the ETC stuff. I mean, it's not that it would make a huge difference, but forcing the resource out of your opponent is really big. I think what Luna's definitely gearing up for is thinking about the Zoth on the following turn. With Fishy Flyer and Alar and the Beastmasters dying, it's going to be a big board. I will say from Nalguidan's perspective, I'm also tempted to just swing the weapon to face for 3, so if I draw Olgra, that's game.
Yep.
Here for a good time.
So there's going to be many outs here for Nalguidan to get lethal, but we'll start to run out of turns. The benefit is that Luna pretty much has to kill everything. That's the awkward part.
I don't.
Zoth won't even. There's no taunts.
Yeah, there's no taunts, but one card in the hand is a Dark Moon Rider, the other's a Rusher. So no actual way for Nalguidan to kill from the hand.
I grow impatient.
So even just, say, a trade down should be enough for Luna here. And that's a lot of stats. I mean, that's also 10 showing. I mean, this is a real threat coming Nalguidan's way. 2-turn lethal setup. And Nalguidan needs to draw damage, but find a miraculous way to survive. Sarfang comes to the hand.
Has there been a Stonewall Anchorman played this game? Yes, there has been. There's been one.
But it's too expensive to play anything to win. I think he needs this Anchorman to draw what, Sword Eater? That is only out.
Sword Eater or the Olgra.
Oh yes, the Olgra or the Sword Eater. Praying. Know that there's only a couple of draws that can bail him out. Oh my goodness!
Oh. ETC would have done it as well.
Nalguidan hits the Olgra, ends it in the flashiest way possible. Talked about how just swinging to the face matters because you want the ability to get that Olgra damage. I mean, still had the ability to do it anyways. But, you know, bringing it up, that was one of the few ways that he could have won the game. He also mentioned another one, right? Which was
It was 1 and 4.
Sword Eater could have been also it.
He had 16 cards left, right, in that situation. I believe. I'm 90% sure he had 16 cards left, very close. And 4 cards in his deck. Killed Luna. So it was a 1 and 4. And that was it, because he was dead. He was 100% dead if he didn't hit lethal right there.
Unbelievable. Every single point of damage really mattered for Nalguidan to squeeze it out, and it was close. And okay, TJ, I get it. You win this battle of decks we love. You win. Just barely. Just barely.
Well,
you know what? We were favored.
I did. He's 1 and 1 with the warrior deck, so it's not like, oh yeah, it's so good. Just played it once, won once. No, he lost a spell mage. Granted, it was a good spell mage draw, but still not the best spell mage draw I've ever seen. But we'll see. I'm still willing to be convinced that this deck is good because I can see the pieces there. It's just the aggressive game plan against tempo decks is a little bit hard when you don't have like actual tempo tools, right? The Felsoul Executioners were decent, but it felt like so expensive to set up just to kill one thing. Whereas like Fury, you can do that and develop a minion alongside of it. I don't know. Maybe I'm just not a fan of. Maybe I'm just learning that I'm not a fan of Death Rattle Demon Hunter. Just any of it. Maybe they're just the nuts, but I just don't like them. That could be a possibility too. That was me. That was the case with Miracle Rogue for me for a long time, until I saw the light.
What'd the light say?
It said Miracle Rogue's the nuts. I woke up in the middle of the night. There was a shining bright light in the middle of my bedroom, and it was just Hunter Ace in a Norwegian accent just saying, Miracle Rogue's the nuts. And that was the light. And I said, all right, I guess I'll start playing and liking Miracle Rogue. Maybe the same case will be for Death Rattle Demon Hunter at some point.
It could be. And we might even get to see Death Rattle Demon Hunter again here as Luna is queued up against the Mage, and it looks like it is going to be the case. So, game number 3, an opportunity for redemption for this Demon Hunter deck. I will have to say that one turn where Luna, kind of hit a very awkward draw, not playing much except the Felsteel Execution that was corrupted, was a big deal. And if she ends up finding slow start again against Mage, this is another deck that can really make it hurt. Now get down once more, full mulligan into the Incanter's Flow. Wow.
Okay. I feel like Mage is decent against Death Rattle Demon Hunter, right? Because of devolving missiles, but at the same time, we only have 2 devolving missiles, and Death Rattle Demon Hunter just plays a Death Rattle minion each and every turn, it feels like. So at some point, they're going to have something stick, and once that thing sticks, then everything sticks. So
yeah, it's the fact that it's not that great on cards like Fell Rattler and the Sneaky Delinquent.
yeah. It's really just good on the like Cool Bore type minions, the things that resummon things from the hand. Everything else just feels a little bit too slow. And the fact that this deck doesn't really have any healing can sometimes be an issue. As you get later stages of the game, sure you can keep like big minions, but if you're not setting up for a multiple turn lethal yourself, then you can just get burned out of the game. But it does have just big minions. Whoo, boy.
Rough. And I think Luna's expression says it all. Nalguidan draws the 2 Incanter's Flow. Not much you can do about that.
We'll cut right to the chase.
Play a minion, I guess. That's really all she can do.
I mean, we're entering that territory again where like no deck can really match up this kind of pace.
Yep. I mean, we saw it in the first game of the series. It's nearly impossible, no matter what deck you're playing, to beat a double encountered flowed mage. Unless they just never hit card draw, which is still a possibility for Nalguidan, right? He used the Arcane Intellect, but outside of that, there's not much.
True. True, and Luna does have some powerful stuff coming up. Oh wow, Nalguidan using Devolving Missiles.
Guess this is just the cleanest it'll ever
Oh, jeez. That could potentially be huge. It's right now cast position on the coin.
get. Yep. I like the 12 damage. Yeah. I mean, this is just so much damage. That's the win condition, right? Just kill the Nalguidan. Attack the face.
Yeah, and you can use the coin for the Death Speaker Blackthorn as well. Yep. No, it makes a lot of sense, and I think that the cards that she could pick up, like if she picks up the Inquisitors and whatnot, she'd even have a full hand and might burn a card, which would be counterproductive of what she's trying to do right now. Nalguidan has card draw in the form of Cram Session, not the best. Wants to figure out if he can just go for the burn line.
This is not what we stood for.
Halen Ford Ring, not exactly a useful card. Good enough to stop damage. We're looking for rushers.
Hits one. Very important.
Yep.
Allows her to squeeze in 4 damage this turn, which is crucial for the game plan, it feels like.
Yes. And Nalguidan is out of burn. Cram Session number 1. Draws a Ruined Orb.
A lot of really good hits from Ruined Orb right now. Even like Primordial Studies would be quite good, just to be able to draw an additional card from the Karam Session. It's really just trying to find a way to get more.
Oh.
What?
Oh.
What would have changed this decision on the Ruined Orb here?
It would have to cost mana, because 0 mana cards have no. Oh, maybe he wanted to see if he drew the. No, if he drew the Primordial Studies for the damage, then why not do that for the card draw, which translates to damage?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Whatever.
He's clearly searching for something. Counterspell not super effective against this deck that's minion focused. Fireball does go face.
Okay. Gives him a Fireball out for lethal next turn. I don't think he hit Ice Barrier, right? Counterspell Mirror Entity.
I also am pretty tempted to play Talon here for the Inquisitor.
Yeah.
Maximum damage though. I don't blame her. I feel like she just is trying to survive and avoid any kind of potential cheese, Mask of Cthulhu. Every health matters on the board. Ruined Orb into Fireball.
Right, that's it.
GG.
What an insane end. I mean, so Nalguidan still had power to, even if he didn't pick up lethal that turn, he still could have gotten Flame Strike, which would have just left 1 minion on board, which would be like the Fell Rattler, which could have been just cleaned up by the Brain Freeze, and then a Ring Toss, and then had another turn for outs. Had Arcane like double Refreshing Spring Water. I still think Nalguidan wins most of the time from that position, even without picking up lethal that turn. But I mean, that's just more reason why you just don't beat double Encounters Flow Spell Mage. It's just very difficult. We've seen it twice this series. Why doesn't everybody have Spell Mage in their lineups? Most people do. Most of the players do, but some don't.
I mean, that was just classic Mage. Now GG, Dan. I mean, you can't really beat the Encounters Flow back-to-back like that and not expect some mage just whip out a win condition. The thing is, it feels repeatedly that this deck is one turn off, right? Like Luna was one turn from killing the warrior, pretty close to one turn killing the mage. But Nalguidan just has the decks that get there. Just barely.
Well, it is Priest last up for Nalguidan, right? And I do feel like that's the deck that was one, the most expected, and two, the one that I think Luna has the best matchups across the board. There's a Control Warrior, which is a pretty greedy Control Warrior if you thought that Dread Eyes was. Luna has, this is the top end, Crash, Mutinous, Silas, N'Zoth, Ysera, and Cthulhu. With double South Sea Scoundrel.
Yeah, it's got a lot going on.
The ultimate anti-control Control Warrior. Which is quite insane. So there's Nalguidan's Control Priest. We saw it in action in the previous series. Seemed to work out well against Control Warrior. We'll see how it works out against this Death Rattle Demon Hunter. I feel like it could fall a little bit behind on tempo because it's just playing less sticky minions than the Death Rattle Hunter and not too many spells to back it up. But we'll see. Priest tends to surprise me quite often with how good it is, even in decks that don't seem that good.
Yeah, I think that with the priest list in particular, it just has a little bit of, threats in all kinds of different directions, some healing, some utility cards, and I don't mind it, right? We talk about how priest for a long time seems to be this class that doesn't actually play any win conditions. Now it has them, which is scary to say the least, but also sets it up in a scenario where it feels extremely difficult to win from a position where you don't have the priest removal and you're playing just like the minion curve. So I don't know. I personally feel very conflicted on the way the priest direction is going. Like, part of me thinks that it's a really good thing that priest is trying to push for like a late game heavy hitting minion package to try and turn the tides and put pressure on their opponents. On the other, it feels like it's not really a control priest anymore. Which is okay.
Call it then N'Zoth Priest.
Yeah, it's somewhere between mid-range and control. It's just like a slow priest. But you could, every priest is kind of a slow priest. So, hard to say what it should be categorized. But yeah, the N'Zoth priest makes a lot more sense.
Right wing. Oh. Okay, what's the nuts here from Brightwing? I don't even know. Another Blade Master?
We are friends now.
Something on that tier where it's just like an answer to a lot of things.
What?
Okay, mana cheating cards, sure.
What?
It doesn't have combo cards, right?
I mean, it's just a combo card itself. It's just the next the next cards you play cost 2 less.
Sure.
Or 3 less, I mean.
Yeah, just like what do you want to combo it with is what I'm thinking about.
Could trade the Brightwing, then Raise Dead, coin Scabs, play Brightwing again alongside Narrowlax.
Yo, get another Scabby. All right, I like where your head's at.
Well, you'd be playing the Raise Dead first, but yeah.
No, you said you play another Brightwing, so you just get another one.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Wow, Nightmare.
You got a Raise Dead from the Narrowlax, but that's a Nightmare. They just are purple swirly cards that don't cost any mana.
Nightmare very good with the Blade Master Samuro and the Apotheosis. That is
So chaos.
very powerful combination indeed. Now Neralex giving these dream cards another Nightmare. The question is, TJ, whose Nightmare are we in? Are we in Nalguidan's Nightmare or in Luna's Nightmare?
Luna's for sure.
Or were you in a nightmare of a nightmare?
Yes.
We must go deeper.
Scabs has got to be good at some point in this game. I don't know when. I haven't figured it out yet, but it will be good.
All right, I'll hold you to it. Nalguidan plays Scorpion, finds Shadowward Ruin, Holy Nova, and Devouring Plague. All okay stuff. I don't think Shadowward Ruin has the most amount of application in a matchup like this, but it does end up answering things like the Inquisitor and a N'Zoth on the same turn if they revive. So I don't mind holding on to that because I think that Priest, this version of Priest is actually quite light on AoE removal. You're very dependent on Hysteria. He chooses a Devouring Plague, which is also something that I don't blame him for because it's something that you could use. He is burning a card with that extra Dream card, so I hope that Laughing Sister was exactly what Nalguidan wanted. Because if he burns a really important card in replacement of it, I'm kind of sad on his behalf.
Yeah. We'll see what it is.
My hand is full.
What is happening? What?
I don't think that's super impactful.
Yeah, Mind Render is okay. Not the most amazing card, but sometimes could be useful situationally. I would say that I would rather have Mind Render than a Laughing Sister, though. I think Laughing Sister is
How dare you?
quite a joke.
Is there trouble?
Look at it. Look at it! How will you ever kill it?
I
The
can't,
You
TJ.
can't even target it.
There's like a bunch of weird gas surrounding her, obscuring my vision.
Alright, well,
I think Sister's quite shy.
I'm gonna deal with it pretty easily. Whatever.
Yeah, the weapon swag. I think that might have been a very small miscalculation. I don't even think the coin is super worth, but it's something that Nalguidan could hold on for the Samuro combination. Things have just been entirely manageable, though. Like, as much as there's these small little things that we could argue about optimization, not much pressure coming out from Demon Hunter. Nalguidan's at a pretty safe life total. Oh yeah, here comes the Scabs.
Oh, cutter butter. Now that's a 4-drop.
Is that something to brag about? Like, as a family heritage that you cut butter?
Yep.
Wow. This is an entire genealogy of descendants named after one of the most simple tasks that you can do in the kitchen.
In my folly, I have sown chaos.
Oh yeah, just tempo.
Is there trouble?
Tempo. Oh, so much tempo.
The Narlax is huge, finds Ysera Awakens.
Too bad Kazakh exists. Because we could be seeing cutter butter in every rogue deck.
As much as I was saying, first of all, I would love that. I would love more butter cutters or cutter butters. Or cuddle buttles. I wouldn't mind seeing more of it. I want to say one thing is that as much as Luna was like in a situation where I was like, oh yeah, you know, she hasn't actually mounted up that much of aggression. With the Nightmare and the Illidar Inquisitor and the swing next turn, that is a lot of damage. That is 17 damage from hand.
Yeah, you're right, actually.
So if Nalguidan's like, you know, big chillin'. If he doesn't play the Samuro combo here, it's just like, Hysteria is good enough. Hysteria, flashy, good enough. Might just
It's
die.
not that crazy of a combo to think about. Well, it's not next turn either. Oh no, it is next turn. You're right.
It is next
It's
turn.
weapon equipped.
Yeah. That's why I like the Felsteel Executioner.
Yeah, it's not like that crazy of a combo to think about. You obviously think about the dream cards, and the number one card that's on your mind against any non-OTK DH is Illidar Inquisitor and the breakpoints that means.
Yeah. That being said, still a good way to get that started. Inquisitor.
Damage.
Nalguidan has Shadow Word Death. Wow! Just, Nalguidan would not be stopped on his path to the top 4. This is so good to draw this Lightsteed right after the Inquisitor, right before N'Zoth. Like, come on. It is absurdly powerful.
After taking 8 damage, well, drawing a card that is a death rattle that heals you for 8. That's pretty good to me.
Yeah.
We'll cut.
And on the current path, based on the trajectory that we see right now, Luna's Demon Hunter is on pace to get swept currently.
Better be something good. Better be something good.
Still have some more Hearthstone to play though, but this N'Zoth setup from Nalguidan, primed and ready to go to ruin Luna's day. So what's died so far? We've had Laughing Sisters, Gnarlex, Brightwing comes back, and the Lightsteed. So actually not that much has died so far from Nalguidan. This
A light steed?
isn't.
Oh, light shower elemental? Okay.
Sorry, Light Shower or Light Shower Elemental.
Light steed's sick.
Oh, and the Scorpion, of
Venomous
course.
Scorpion. Yeah.
Luna draws a Death Rattle with the swing of the Tusk Piercer. Needs to find a way to get past all of these minions first. So Spectral Flyer or the Fishy Flyer, both something I'm thinking about right now. Talon would be an important. Yeah.
Sure, with the Talon, so I feel like that has to be a play. Maybe the stealth minions, if there's no wide AoE, could be useful as well with the spectral delinquents. I don't know. Nalguidan has double nightmare as well. Wait.
Very close to lethal.
Okay, yeah.
Yes, but how?
Actually, 8. No, doesn't he have lethal?
It's 16. 8 plus 3 is 11, plus 5 is 16.
But if he nightmares the 3/3 nightmares.
Power Fusion was lethal! If he had just renewed first, he would have had lethal. Because what you do is, yeah, you double nightmare the Narlex, trade in the Scorpid to the Talon, then Ysera awakens, and then he has 16 damage on board.
But how?
And that whole process costs 4 mana.
Right.
So there would have Power Infusion would have been lethal if
You're right.
just renewed first. Obviously, you can't really call it a miss sequence because if you don't hit lethal, which it's really just it's Power Fortitude, Power Fusion, Apotheosis, right? Those are really the only things that give the additional 2 damage as a buff to a minion. So this is just a more efficient way to sequence it, where you get to heal on your N'Zoth. But the other side of me, Nalguidan just missed lethal straight up.
Yeah, a pretty hard one to calculate for, but yes. Yeah, I was wondering if there's any way to have done it with nightmaring the 2 targets that would survive the Ysera Awakens and going for it, but it was just a little bit off. But yeah. So Luna has the Fell Rattlers, another chance, another lease at life. Finds the Fell Steel Execution number 2. That's not super good.
Demons? Demons.
Trying to order things so that she pulls the Fishy Flyer, I believe. Or at least try to.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nothing feels incredible.
I mean, this all kind of works out.
And as soon as this Taylor dies, yeah. It does. I mean,
She has to be aware that... Yeah, she has to be aware that 3 dream cards haven't been played. So, very strong likelihood that Nalguidan has some burst damage from hand. Has to clear off minions every single turn. Southsea Scoundrel.
One for me, one for you.
Whoa. Oh, I don't want to give any of these cards over to Luna.
hey, I don't want to give any.
Maybe hope that the Skull of Gul'dan ends up not being outcast.
Yeah.
It's a good one. Although N'Zoth is even better. You get the Rushers, and I believe you get the Inquisitor back.
Still a lot of power, too.
Board clear.
This is, yeah.
It's a board clear. I think she has to consider, like, how does the Ysera Awakens work into it? Could you play around it? You can. She actually can just trade the Fell Rattler instead. And the Fishy Flyer. That was huge. Oh, this is not playing around with Ysera Awakens. And I think this is an optimistic line from Luna, saying that if, you know, my opponent has Ysera Awakens, it's going to be a little bit trickier anyways. But I understand wanting to keep more power onto the board. Hysteria and Shadow Word Death and Desperate Prayer could make a case for actually all 3 of these. Oh, wow, you can skull even afterwards. That is nuts. Palm reading.
Holy. Oh my
Hero.
goodness.
Flash heal and the
Flash
Zarella.
heal and you. Oh, jeez. So, what is Nalguidan worried about right now? Are there any
Dying.
big cards? Yeah, but like what outside of
No time.
the second Illidar Inquisitor? Are there any other like outs that Luna could possibly have? Mutinous, eating something. I don't know.
I'm guessing from Luna's perspective, she's going to load up the most power on the board. Alar and 2 Spectral Delinquents. Alar not coming back from the N'Zoth is kind of a big deal, too. That would be a card that's problematic for the priest to deal with repeatedly.
Flash heals Irella, runaway Blackwing to snipe the egg.
Yeah, I mean this is looking like Nalguidan cannot be stopped. And I think that like we saw 3 games of the Death Rattle Demon Hunter, which looks like it's gonna get swept. And I can't help but feel like it wasn't. Oh my gosh, gets Nazoth back. I can't help but feel like it almost didn't really matter what deck Luna was playing. That Nalguidan just has. He's like playing fine, and his deck is like doing the stuff of what it's good at, and he's just crushing.
Yeah, would have had to have been like Luna's strategy from last week with the Warlock to be able to target Priest. Like hard target Priest, not soft target Priest. But hard target Priest has not been working out for a lot of players. Right, I think Viper had tried to use the hard target Priest earlier, didn't work out. Alright, I guess Nazoth it is. Zyrella Nazoth. Just
and that's it. Luna saying, "This is fun."
Yep. Look how fun all of this is.
Like,
is everybody seeing
fun
this?
Is happening? What is so fun?
Look at all this fun Nalguidan's having. Why can't I have that much fun?
Oh, he's having fun, all right. He is moments away from going to the top 4. Nalguidan 3-0, 3 over Dreadeye, and 3-1 over Luna is going to take back-to-back series wins and advance to tomorrow. Luna, I mean, the Death Rattle Demon Hunter showed a little bit of what it's capable of, but ultimately why this archetype has not been doing well is largely due to the fact that it feels like when your momentum is stopped like this, it just can't get over the hump. And that's going to do it. 3-1 Nalguidan. Priest able to finish the deal, and the sweep over the Death Rattle Demon Hunter has been complete. Nalguidan will be joining fellow Argentinian in the top 4 with Rami and Nalguidan being represented. We talked about how it might be the year of LATAM coming up, and now they represent at least half of our semifinalists so far, with one more potentially doing so. There's a member of Brazil, Fled, who's coming up next on broadcast, who might be able to do the same, TJ.
Yeah, and Rami and Nalguidan are practice pairs. Their lineups are incredibly similar. They just have a couple of card differences along their list, but same archetypes. And because they both finished first in the group, they won't meet each other in the semifinals. The only possible meeting for those two would be in the finals, which would be at the run for both of them, because they didn't do great last season, but making their way through this season with incredibly impressive performances. Seemed like they had the lineup each and every week, including in playoffs, just kind of keeping it simple with the 4 best decks in the metagame, at least that are tried and true, right? Luna's not out. She'll fight in the decider match a little bit later on, between against either Dreadeye or Fled. So, still an opportunity, and if she ends up going up against Dreadeye, we could have the battle of the Death Rattle Demon Hunters. 2 different styles of it. See which one comes out on top.
We shall see, but she gets a little bit of a breather. Yet another reason why it might be nice to be at 1 seed is that you get to get the winner's advantage, but also a little bit of breather so that you can recollect yourself, because you can see that Luna was a little bit thrown off at the very end. I'm sure just also for the camera, for the lulz. That does set up our elimination match. We've talked about it, how it just seems to be the playoffs of the 7 and 8 seeds. They've been crushing it. I believe when we look back, only one player from the 7-8 position hasn't qualified so far for a top 4 across every region. So we'll see if that prophecy comes true, as before it, Fled was hyping it up on Twitter, saying that he feels like he can go 6-0 today and get that Blaja energy. We're going to take a few minutes. It's halftime here at Hearthstone Grandmasters Playoffs. When we come back, the second half of matches here at day 2 of playoffs to find out who's joining us in the semifinals.
Hey everyone, and welcome to week 7 of Mull It Over. This time, let's take a look at Libram Paladin, an older archetype that was given stronger early game this expansion with the inclusion of secrets. As you might expect, the two highest priority cards to keep are Aldor Attendant and Sword of the Fallen, because they unlock your deck's Libram synergy and Secret synergy respectively. Attendant is undisputedly your best play for both tempo and long-term setup on turn 1. But what about turn 2? When Surrender faces Alan's Spellmage, he has access to both Sword of the Fallen and Hand of Adal as on-curve follow-up plays to the Attendant. Even though it's less immediate damage than Hand of Adal, he goes for the sword in order to disrupt Alan's turn 3 and turn 4 with the threat of Oh My Yogg. It's especially difficult for Spellmage to test for it without the coin and without having drawn Incanter's Flow, whereas the damaged Attendant buffed by Hand of Adal could easily have been removed by Combustion. Disruption with secrets is effective even if it's just a bluff. Alan respects it to the point where he delays his deck of Lunacy on turn 4 game plan. The second sword from Surrender still doesn't immediately pull Oh My Yogg, but once again makes Alan use a Brain Freeze for essentially no value, just to let his Lunacy go off safely. And when the sword finally pulls the second Oh My Yogg, even if Alan knows all 3 secrets in play, it's still a pain to have to throw his Cram Session away. In the meantime, Surrender has amassed plenty of resources and thinned his deck of secrets, which are lackluster top decks. It's a similar story when Surrender faces Give Please on Token Druid, another deck